Still no go? Good evening, stock traders, and welcome to Stock Traders Talk Radio. Here on a beautiful Wednesday night, September the 12th, 2012, I am your host, STT. Joining me on tonight's program, I have Stock Sumo.
Good evening, sir. How are you tonight?
I am good, sir. A little pre-show technical difficulties there, but we seem to have worked them out, and here we are a couple of minutes late, but we're here. That's the important thing. Also joining us on the program tonight, we have Mr. Kopp.
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
How are you tonight, sir?
Excellent. Absolutely excellent.
That's good to hear. Now, tonight, as everybody knows, we have a exclusive CEO interview lined up for everybody. Doing tonight's interview is Mr. Kopp. Mr. Kopp, take it away, sir.
Thanks, SDT. We're here with Mr. Mark Newbauer, the CEO of MIKP Productions, Inc., stock ticker MIKP. Welcome back to the show there, Mr. Newbauer.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Absolutely. You're coming in loud and clear. Apologies for the delay there a little bit. Every once in a while, the technical difficulties, but we have an amazing IT team, which is phenomenal. It's been quite a while since the last time you came on the show. I believe it was probably the end of May, maybe the beginning of June.
Yep, I believe end of May is correct.
So basically we have 3 months, and I kind of want to just, I know in the OTC world, everyone's looking what's next, but I think, kind of updating and just giving like a piece of what has happened over the course of the last 4 months will probably be big. And, as everyone remembers, for those listeners that are new to MIKP, and I probably should start off with that, what exactly is MIKP?
Well, MIKP is the public vehicle for MIKP Productions, which is an entertainment company. We're an independent movie studio, and recently we've kind of upgraded to a media holdings company with our acquisition earlier this year of St. James Films, which is a micro-budget genre studio.
Excellent. And over the course of the last 4 months, as I alluded to in the beginning, we developed, we had 2 interviews back to back where we covered the history of you and your company. Those could be heard live in the archive versions on StockTradersTalk.com. Also we did establish a step-by-step process, I guess is the best way to say it. Would you agree there, Mr. Mark?
Absolutely.
Where
focus strategy.
A lot of hard work and a lot of hours. And I'm just going to go through a couple of those real quick of where we were and what we accomplished. And I'll make it quick, but I think it's really important to kind of talk about it. Our biggest focus in the very beginning was to reestablish shareholder value. There was a couple of rough years there for a little while, and most of it was due to a lot of trying to raise capital in the wrong way, and some, quite frankly, some bad decisions, and just the wrong people that were around the company. So what we did here at STT and is basically we aligned with Mike the Pike and developed a strategy together. And one of those was prevent dilution. We didn't want any more shares entering the market, so the goal was to stabilize. Develop a marketing segmentation plan that reached a broader audience. That was one of our big focuses. And we wanted to release all the news and anything associated with the company from an operations perspective right from the very beginning about I think the big one, if I remember correctly, was the Cannes Festival, right? The Cannes Festival.
Yes, that's right.
And then we went through the posture and develop control measures that prevent any funders from being able to derail or alter the business plan. And that, as everyone knows, that was not easy for the very beginning. The stock traded at 0.001 by 2, 3 and 4 there for a little while. Over time, I think the funders just kind of stopped calling of recent. I think they still want to get involved, but I think Mark has pretty much made it very clear over the course of the last 4 months. It's like, look, that's not the direction we're going. And then we had a lot of different brokers, specifically TDA and Scottrade, right, that prevented buying shares on the market due to the DTC chill and those type of things. The lawyers and yourself worked tirelessly doing every little piece of paperwork and a real complete total assault on every little detail of the company, and basically presented that to the DTC, and over time showed progress and all those things, and eventually the DTC was chilled. That was a big day. At the same time, Scottrade
was unchilled.
Yeah, unchilled, correct, unchilled. Which was the very first. I think you were one of 3 companies at that date in the history of the OTC market that was actually unchilled after that process. So that proved, and that doesn't just happen. There's a lot went into that, and you really had to prove every aspect of the company, what you did, how you did it, when you did it. I mean, everything you can imagine. And I'm sure a lot of that probably wasn't comfortable in the sense that, that they probably wanted to know, your every home address you ever had since you were 5. I'm sure it was pretty detailed.
They definitely did their due diligence.
Absolutely. Then we did a lot of focus at the same time on share reductions as well as debt reductions, and trying to basically get every share we possibly could out of the market for a bunch of reasons. Mainly bring back shareholder value, confidence, and those type of things, as well as prevent anybody from being in a situation where they can manipulate the stock and those type of things. Those are the big focuses from there. And then as each time that we lowered the outstanding share structure, we lowered the authorized simultaneously. And we took a philosophy of press releases where we didn't want to just start sending out press releases, but yet wanted to start using a blog. And then a big focus on lowering debt, which we did substantially over the course of time. And then, Nobo list, step-by-step processes, everything focused on revenue. And essentially, that's where we are today. You've been focusing on operations and those type of things. And the first thing I kind of want to talk about, and I think we have a little bit of a surprise for everybody, is I want to talk about St. James Films, your productions and acquisitions and certain things like that, because I got a lot of questions for you, and hopefully I can get to them all. Your shareholders have been bombarding me pretty good with everything you can imagine. So the key to it is let's be short on some of the answers if we want to get through it, and if something you want to answer longer, by all means, go ahead. But let's go ahead and go into St. James Films.
All right, that's great. You want me to basically expound on St. James? Is that the question?
Yeah, what are they doing at St. James? What do they mean in the short and long term for you?
Well, St. James was. I know. I try not to throw this term out casually, but it's been a game-changing year for us, and that was one of the game changers that make this just our best year ever in Mike the Pike Productions. It's an acquisition of a micro-budget, low-budget film company, and they put out they put out genre pictures. Genre meaning action, slasher, anything that's very high concept or with like a cultish appeal, almost like the Roger Corman films of the the earlier days, the 60s and 70s. What we would call B movies back then. And these are very attractive to foreign markets. And more, even in the last few months, as VOD, which is video on demand, demand picks up via Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, Cinema Now, you name it. and online streaming media opportunities, these are also starting to sell very well in the U.S. because content is king, and there are so many content providers now that they are picking up things that are instantly appealing to a viewer. And these genre pictures appeal, without getting too philosophical, but just the concepts appeal to, kind of our primal selves. Well, I think we'll be the first to admit, a lot of these are tongue-in-cheek. These are not Oscar contenders, for lack of a better term. They're campy, fun films, and they're made at a very they're made very cost efficiently, and they pre-sell at a profit 9 times out of 10. And Ted Chalmers, who is the COO president of the company, and who sold us this model and stayed on as an executive, has had success in this in the last 8 years and has never lost money on a movie.
Excellent.
So,
Ted is involved in St. James Films as well as Tomcat Films, correct?
yes, Ted is the CEO and founder of Tomcat Films, which is a sales distribution company. And I will be brief here, but the key here is that relationship. Every filmmaker's wet dream is to, at least any filmmaker with the promise of a career and a long-term career, is having distribution for your film. You've got to have distribution to have exhibition. Otherwise, your film sits on a shelf. And there are some great films that sit on shelves for years because they don't have distribution in place. And the relationship that we have with Tomcat as kind of a sister company, the synergies there are just hands down amazing. And where St. James plays a big role in Mike the Pike, to be more specific to your initial question there, is it systematically creates product which generates revenues. And in our first year, I think we've already announced five films that have been either produced in-house or acquired. And we're going to hit a point here sometime, as I mentioned in our blog the other day, which is just blog.mtpprods.com. I mentioned that, the more of these we have, the more money we're going to make. And there's going to be a point in time, whether it's this year or next, when revenues catch up with receivables and we've got an eternal cycle of consistent revenues to support operations in some of our more ambitious endeavors on the parent company side, which is Mike the Pike.
Excellent. Let's. I know that one of the things prior when we were just getting ready to go live, that you said that it would be a good thing to just give Ted Chalmers a call. Let's do that now. So producers, if you could, let's bring in Mr. Ted Chalmers.
Hello.
Mr. Chalmers, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing wonderful. We're live on the radio with Mr. Mark Newbauer. How are you?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Ted. How are you doing?
Very, very well.
Good to hear. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
Mark was just basically talking about St. James Films as well as Tomcat a little bit, and was really getting excited on a lot of different things that you're doing and all that. So for our listeners, how about if we just in basic terms, from your perspective, tell us about your relationship with MIKP and Mike the Pike Productions Inc.
Sure. Mark and I had met a year ago almost, coming up here, Mark, AFM.
Yeah.
And we had a company called St. James Films, which was producing low-budget films, highly marketable for worldwide. And we ended up doing a deal where Mike the Pike bought the company and took over the assets. And my company, Tomcat Films, stayed on as sales agent, helping to market those films around the world.
Excellent. I imagine you'd probably travel a lot.
Quite a bit, yes. Go to Europe several times a year, go to Asia at least once a year. just trying to spread the word and get the films out there.
So when basically all the main festivals, that's you're the one that's at each of these then.
Yes, I mean I do have help. I have representatives in Europe and in Asia, and I also have a New York-based Latin American rep as well. So I do have some help. Don't have to go to every market. I can sometimes send an associate.
Excellent. Now you guys have a lot of things in the works. I hear coming up for AFM.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are on target to have 5 features with St. James for this year alone in production and acquisition deals. So that's all very exciting. And going into AFM, which is one of the key film markets. I mean, there's really 3 of them: Berlin in February, the Cannes Film Festival in May, and then AFM. So this is sort of the last bash before the year's over.
Excellent. I probably take this for granted when I say FM because I've read a lot about it and those type of things. For our listeners that don't understand exactly how big AFM is, can you tell us what it is, or the type of atmosphere that you're actually going to, and how long it is, those type of things?
Well, I mean, I think Mark can agree with me. It's kind of like a zoo. I mean, it's just it's a pretty big, crazy mix of people. I mean, it's almost like a bunch of gypsies getting together and gambling on the horses or something. But essentially, you have buyers, independent film buyers from all over the world. These are theatrical buyers, DVD buyers, and television buyers. They could be television stations, they could be DVD labels, VOD outlets, and they're pretty much everybody that's not a studio or not owned by a studio or they do not have an output with a studio. So they're looking to fill their coffers with product that is going to compete with the studio product or draft off of the studio product. And so basically this is sort of the flea market of independent films that only independent companies are allowed at AFM, so you have no studios down there. And we basically just sell our movies and make deals with our buyers whom end up becoming good friends of ours over the years.
Excellent. Now I assume that you and Mark are both going out to AFM together this year, or meeting there, or something of that form?
Absolutely. We're already talking about it.
Excellent. Now, there were some weird things where I got a lot of questions from a lot of listeners, and I really couldn't answer them to actually come up with a legitimate question. So I'm just going to ask you: is there like a booth? I mean, how's it, how does that work?
It's a trade show. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's a trade show put on by the IFTA, which is the Independent Film and Television Alliance, and just like a trade show you go to in Vegas or, anywhere else, it's really basically the same concept. What they do is they take over the Lowe's Hotel down in Santa Monica, and all the suites of that hotel are converted into offices. So we basically move into that hotel for a week. The beds are all taken out, and we literally move our offices, desks and all, into this hotel, and we run our business from there.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. So I assume you're getting pretty excited about that. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much absorbing all of my time and thought at this point. Just getting all the marketing together, the trailers, get those together, setting the appointments. And right now there's other markets going on. I mean, the Toronto Film Festival is going on right now. That's not really a market. It's more of a festival where some people do go, but there's certainly lots of buyers and sellers there. And then there's a television market that's coming up in October. But we're putting all of our focus into the feature film business and the AFM.
Excellent. Now, when in the due diligence that we did, and I know a lot about the companies and from that, from being involved to a certain degree, this has been a very big year for both of you. How do you put that in perspective, and how do you move to the next level, the next gate or the next milestone?
Well, we're building it brick by brick. I mean, we're putting together, pretty solid company. We're building the assets, getting the films produced and acquired, and we're just going to keep expanding that and going after, product that we feel is complementary to what the studios are doing. We do have a business plan for that to take advantage of, bigger films and well-known entities and public domain material so that there's, recognition of the projects that we're doing. Lizzie Borden is a great example of that. I mean, everybody knows Lizzie Borden, the story of Lizzie Borden. So,
right.
We're going after material that has familiarity with the audience, and we're just going to keep building on that. There's
Excellent.
plenty of material out there for that.
Excellent. Now, Mark, I've asked Mr. Chalmers a lot of questions. Is there anything I didn't ask him that you'd want to address? Because I know that he doesn't have much time with us.
No, and I'm so thankful. Ted is so slammed right now getting ready for AFM on Tomcat and St. James' behalf. So I'm really glad that he made it on the call. But I don't think anything was missed. I think simply to emphasize, AFM, as Ted mentioned, AFM is huge, but it's kind of the first of a major three-tiered market stream, which is AFM in November, Berlinale in February, and Cannes in May. And these are kind of the big three. Ted, correct me if I'm wrong. And as Ted mentioned, we're picking up films, we're producing films, and brick by brick, I think, is the most important thing you said. Cop, it kind of goes hand in hand with your step-by-step strategy that we're taking with Mike the Pike, which has allowed us to truly focus. And I think it's, without patting ourselves in the back, it's quite obvious the benchmarks that we have set and achieved and continue to achieve along the way in that process. We're not biting off more than we can chew. We are taking it brick by brick, step by step. And we'll get to a point, again, when receivables become revenues. And this thing, via relationships, just like Ted and I meeting, just under a year ago. And you look what's happened. This is about relationships, and it's about positioning the brand more than anything at this stage.
Excellent.
Another thing that AFM does, which is fantastic, is it does shake the tree, shakes the money tree with these buyers that owe us money, because they typically like to time their payments to when they're going to see you face to face next, because they don't want to be embarrassed and say, we know we owe you this money. So already we're getting notices that payments are getting prepared to come in on some of the contracts we have out there, which is exciting.
Oh, I bet. Well, I can assure you this. I talk to a lot of shareholders all the time, and many of them basically want you to go to AFM and absolutely kick ass. I mean, they are way in your corner. I can tell you that. If you actually searched on a lot of the different investor sites, and you could actually type in AFM, and I'm sure it would come up with like 500 posts. I mean, it's quite amazing. So, they're in your corner, and I wish you all the luck out there. And and we're definitely be talking about on the show about what you achieved and the successes over the course of the next 6 months, and so.
Yeah, I look forward to having some great news for you guys.
Excellent. Well, Mr. Chalmers, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be with us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
See you, Ted. Thank you.
That's good stuff. That was Mr. Ted Chalmers, the CEO and founder of Tomcat Films, as well as the COO and president of St. James Films. Intimately involved in Mike the Pike Productions, Inc., and all around good guy. And he's a guy that's doing all the travel and selling the films, the distribution piece, and a lot of aspects to it. So I know there's been a lot of questions on how that whole piece kind of tied together with your company, Mark, and I think that explained it pretty good.
I think so too. Ted's really great at breaking things down like that. He's got years of experience in the sales and distribution arena, and we're so lucky to have him as part of the company.
Excellent. Now, what I'd like to do next is, we're already about a half hour into this, but I want to talk about a lot of different questions that I've gotten from your shareholders. The reason why we did this update was for them. I mean, it wasn't, some particular announcement that we had. Well, with the exception of one.
I just like your voice, Con.
Appreciate it. There is one. I heard that you went to LA and you recently returned. and for some reason you could hardly contain yourself with excitement. How big is today to you?
Today is huge for me. I'm talking within the last hour. Timing couldn't be better for this, but I can't say much, though I can say I was out in LA last week. I had the honor and pleasure of, last year I got to have a meal with George R.R. Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones and the author behind our Skin Trade. Just such a gracious, amazing guy, amazing mind. And if that wasn't honor enough, last week I got to have dinner with his manager, Vince Gerardis, who is the executive producer of Game of Thrones. He's also executive produced features such as Jumper. The guy's bio is incredible. I actually sent it to you earlier, Cop, so you could take a look at it. But we had a great meal together, great meeting of the minds. It didn't even go better in my head, preparing for the dinner itself. It was he's just a really great guy. It was a great meeting. And tonight I had a phone call with Vince. We've been in touch since the dinner. And again, I can't say much at this point, but if things materialize in the way that I feel they will based on some of our discussions, it would make tonight probably one of the greatest nights of my life in terms of my career and the company and the brand and where we're going. I don't mean to be too cryptic, but I'm just not at liberty at this time, but it was hands down, I'm talking my entire life, one of the best conversations I've had.
I don't mean to prod, but the shareholders would fry me alive. Is it based off of the relationship? I would assume that Skin Trade comes into play with this.
Skin Trade first and foremost, is that's the task at hand, but there seem to be synergies here that lead well beyond the Skin Trade into some really win-win territory, I guess.
Nice.
I hope
nice.
Hope you don't have pitchforks.
That's a great That's a great cryptic answer. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And you can yell at me later for pushing the pressure button on that. All right. No, congratulations. I know that wasn't part of the radio show or anything like that. That actually just happened right before. However, a lot of moving pieces with Mike the Pike Productions for sure. I'm going to go to a couple questions. You okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't know if it's possible to get an answer, but I would like to know how the film industry works from the business side. Selling a movie would be great, but how many other hands are in the pot? It would be nice to know how a buck gets passed around for a typical movie deal. No specifics necessary, just a quick idea of a typical dollar and a typical deal of this size. Long question.
I'm sorry. Okay, I've heard the entire question, but this is in relation to Mike the Pike or St. James?
I Mike the Pike. So what basically your movies. How does in a movie in general a movie, right? How many people are involved with the piece? I guess, and what they're really driving to is how many people get a cut of the pie.
Well, there is. Let's go through the players. There are the producers and the investors make the movie. So you've got the producers, you've got the investors, and in that pool, you may have given away back-end points to directors, actors, etc., just depending on the deals you strike. That's not a necessity, but it happens. We like to create win-wins in everything we do, so in a lot of our projects, we will offer at least something to anyone that's involved. But Money Magazine did a breakdown a couple years ago, the $9 ticket breakdown, and basically you've got the theater, you've got the studio, you've got advertising and marketing, then there's, of course, the production, distribution would fit into advertising and marketing, and then, of course, the back end I discussed. So to make it simpler, you've got the production, the distributors, and the exhibitors. The exhibitors being movie theaters, DVD, VOD, cable, whatever the case may be. They're going to get their cut. The distributor's going to get their cut. And then the producers and, the producers and investors get their cut. And if I may simplify it further, the way it breaks down in, say, an investment contract for a film, just a very basic one, would be the producers split the back end with the investors 50-50. And you strike a deal with, I Am Global or Lionsgate or Tomcat or whoever, and you're looking at anywhere from, 20 to 30% they're going to take off the top for their distribution fee, and then the producers and investors split 50-50 the net.
Excellent. All right, here's the next one. Are audited financials planned for the near future of MIKP, and if so, when do you see this happening?
I guess you'd have to define near future there. They are definitely in the cards for Mike the Pike. There's no option for us. We're here to stay. We're here to grow. This is not your typical pink sheet and where are they 2 years from now. I mean, this is a brand we're building. So we will have to, by the very nature of our existence, become fully reporting, fulfill audited financials, etc. At this time, I can't see us doing that in 2012, and I do think that probably sometime in 2013 would be appropriate for such. But it really, right now, our focus is on positioning the brand and growing the company and creating fundamental growth so that the speculation attributed to especially this realm of the market, which I've seen some people fondly refer to as a cesspool, I see it as a great opportunity, and I feel that, now is the time to use this opportunity to really position our brand and add assets to, again, hedge the speculation factor and have our price grow in line with our actual value with fundamental assets on the books. That's truly my goal. And once we can kind of designate that point, then I think it would definitely be time to become fully reporting.
Excellent. Now, here's a really good question. This one that I actually am very intrigued to know the answer to. What will white space and skin trade be rated? PG, PG-13, R?
That's up to the MPAA, the Motion Pictures Association of America. They put ratings on films. They can always surprise you. I would say due to content, if anyone's seen Game of Thrones, that's no PG show, but it's also probably one of the most popular shows in the world on television right now. So due to content, we're most likely going to be an R rating on those. It's possible to go for a PG-13, but a lot of that stuff's decided as you move through production. Distributors, may make cuts accordingly, and it really comes down to, if you're smart, what's going to garner the balance between the best possible profit and the best possible movie, creatively speaking.
Excellent. Now, when do you expect casting for Skin Trade to take place, and are there any A-list actors or actresses that are hoping to cast in the film?
Skin Trade is hands down an A-list project across the board. We have our model in St. James, but we also have our model in Mike the Pike, and Skin Trade already has an A-lister attached in George R.R. Martin. We've already got an A-list attachment there. We are going to maximize George's brand. With much respect to George as a human being, we're going to maximize George's brand by staying A-list across the board. So there's really no other option there. We actually have dabbled in submissions with managers and agents. There's interest out there. And again, I've had some tremendous discussions in the past 2 weeks that lead me to believe that that we'll be doing that, in an easier manner than I thought before. That said, the timing on that, we got to strike while the iron's hot. And, Game of Thrones is, it's hot right now. There's going to be a peak there. Thankfully, there are, more books in the series, and HBO has vowed to go on with the series for as long as George will write. If you haven't seen it, it's a tremendous work of art, and it's doing very well. So to strike now is important. We'll be finishing the script and begin packaging immediately this year, and with discussions taking place at AFM in accordance to the grand scheme of the whole project.
Now, it's you got a lot of multiple projects going on at the same time, and I know white space is a huge milestone for you. Two things with that. Is it done, and when can we see a trailer?
When is it done? It's in post-production right now. When it's done remains to be seen. However, we're expediting a trailer as soon as possible to have that done before AFM so that we can, as Ted said, it's a shake the money tree market. And at that market, our primary goal, I mean, you never know. A lot of things can happen there. I did not expect to meet Ted and acquire St. James Films last year, that's for sure. Our primary goal at AFM this year is to begin discussions with premier sales agents and buyers toward the best possible deal, if not a healthy bidding war on the project. And I foresee that taking place through AFM, Berlin Alley, and Cannes. We would be foolish to take the first offer on the table, and we'd be foolish not to meet, anybody and everybody that may have an offer for that film. It's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for shareholders. It's a big deal for the company, not to mention the other producers and the investors. I mean, we are not the only investor on this film. We are not the only producer on this film. There are a lot of people that we need to be true to, that we need to be loyal to, and that we need the best possible circumstance available.
Sure.
And, though Ted won't be handling sales or distribution here, I had a great conversation with Ted about white space. And, as a buyer, as a sales agent, Ted has attested several times that we've got a very good thing with white space. And between Ted Chalmers and Stacy Parks of FilmSpecific.com, we have some very good, well-positioned sales agents, ex-sales agents, et cetera, that will be making direct introductions for us on behalf of the project.
All right. Now, with that, because I think we all know that White Space is the film that you've been doing for a while now, and everything you had you put into this from that perspective, and simultaneously, all of these things have happened for you over the course of the last year to where Skin Trade comes into play, and you're actually writing the script. Is the script for Skin Trade done?
It's not done yet. We did finalize the outline on Skin Trade, and it's phenomenal. I'm very pleased with it. I actually discussed it at dinner with Vince last week and kind of went over the basics. And his recommend is, we get it done and we start talking to George directly. And at that point, we'll be there with, the horse's mouth, and we'll hone it if necessary to the best possible feature. So, short answer, no. The long answer is we're well on our way. It's going very well.
I guess asking you a target date on that, is that an applicable question in this situation?
It is. If shareholders would stop calling me, no, I'm kidding. But
you're over and under is 30 every single day. Over and under is 30. If we can stay under 30, we're good.
I'm telling you, I was here. I'm not even kidding, and I'm not trying to pat myself in the back, but I've easily been putting in 10 to 13-hour days on a regular basis. I'll go home. I'll read books to Billy and Jacob, my two boys. I'll spend a couple hours with my wife. We watch our favorite show, spend some time together. I'm back in the office by 10:30, and leave here at 2 a.m., get up at 7:30, walk Billy to kindergarten. I mean, it's nonstop.
I can only imagine. What would you accept? So based off all your hard work and your extra hours you put in, when would you expect there to be a target date for the script of Skin Trade to be done?
I would like to be done with at least a first draft of the script to send to George and Vince for discussion in the next 3 weeks.
Whoa, okay. I thought you were going to tell me something like way down the road. No, yeah, that's awesome. All right. Any idea if Skin Trade will be part of a series? That's a good question.
Let's just say Skin Trade has some major franchise potential. I'll say that much. Right now, we are developing it as a feature, but it's not a one-trick pony. There's a lot of franchise potential there, be it sequels, series, you name it.
Excellent. Okay, here's this. I already know the answer. This is what I'm going to ask you anyway. Will MIKP commit to the reduction of shares down to a specific number of shares or a certain number of shares per month? I'm going to answer this for you. No. And the reason is one thing in strategy and the things that we've achieved up to this point is in business, things happen and things ebb and flow. Now, is the goal to continually focus on reducing the share structure and debt? Yes, that's the goal. How much and how often and how when is dependent on a lot of different things. Revenue being generated coming in, and quite frankly, for you OTC investors out there, you keep raising the price, and the stock keeps screaming up all the time. Would I have liked to have had $500,000 sitting in the bank when the stock was at 0.001 and 0.002? Yes, because your question would be invalid because the shares wouldn't be out there. So I hope that answers that question. But strategy-wise, I don't want to divulge anything that we're going to be doing, but I can tell you this: no shares are coming into the market, and as the company can, and it makes its each. And I would say we probably talk about this once a week. Would you say, Mark?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and the goal is, how much do you do for shareholders, and what is the balance with the company and what it needs to do? For a lot of these things, it takes money to do it, and when there's excess or what I would perceive as a targeted excess that we have, of course, that's the plan. And you and I don't know if I don't think we have differing opinions, but my goal when we first started was to be at 1.5 billion by the end of the year. Do I think we're going to get there? Probably not. Do I think we're going to get close? Probably. A couple of things got to fall into place with that, and we'll go from there. Would you concur with basically how I kind of just described that from a share structure standpoint?
Absolutely. I mean, we can't commit to what we can't predict. And, first and foremost, as mentioned, I think we've done a great job in reductions thus far. And right now, our primary objectives are building the company, creating fundamental assets that foster a market cap, in relation to the price that is reasonable and justifiable, and continually positioning the brand. I mean, that's how you build a company, and the market will follow. I do truly believe that. Absolutely.
I'm going to give you this one, though. Mark, can you officially confirm that you will not do a reverse split for the next 5 years or the foreseeable future? 5 years. The bottom line is, do you plan or intend on doing a reverse split?
No, I do not plan or intend on a reverse split. And 5 years committing to anything is, I think, it's unrealistic.
I would agree.
My marriage, of course.
That's a pretty long time, but all right. Well, thank you for confirming that part, though. All right. What is the outlook for posting a profit?
The outlook for posting a profit really depends on, and I will admit I'm still learning this animal, and this might have been more of a question for Ted, because the first real set of revenues that's going to be coming in regularly will be from the St. James model, of course. I mean, those are quick projects. They're in and out, and they're sold at every single market by Ted or one of his counterparts. So I do not know the exact answer of that, but we will inevitably, continuing on our path with this business plan and this strategy. It's the very reason we acquired St. James in the first place. This is a systematic approach to growth, and we will hit a point in the near future in which revenues are coming in on a consistent basis, and product and library are continually growing.
Excellent. All right, here's a good one. With substantial revenues expected from the sale of films such as White Space, do you plan on using some of the revenue to pay off what is left of the debt and/or reduce the share structure further through a share buyback?
I can say and/or definitely. I'm not sure in what order or in what size and what would become available, but via White Space, via St. James, via whatever operational capital we have to do so, yes, we'll not only be creating product and positioning the brand, but we're going to do our very best. I think even prior to share structure is eliminating debt, further reducing the debt on the books to the best of our ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to comment on something, and probably because the way I'm asking a lot of questions from shareholders. In the strategies that have been employed in the business plan and the different market segmentation plans that we've come up with and really have tweaked. One thing, and it was actually I believe it was a friend of yours that brought up not too long ago that hey, Martin's hot right now. And, the focus on skin trade pretty much needs to take more of a forefront, I guess would probably be the best way to say that. And I think we all kind of talked about it and agreed. And I would say that, there for a while in the very beginning, the focus was White Space and then a shift to the focus of skin trade. And, while he's hot, of course, everything you have is you're throwing at skin trade. Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I care about each and every project we take on. I love them. Even some of the campy St. James ones. They have their endearing qualities because of what they mean to us as a company, and the people involved are just some of the most amazing people. But skin trade. George R. Martin. Again, I'll say it. He was USA Today's Author of the Year last year. He's a New York Times best-selling author. Game of Thrones is HBO's most successful television show, and I believe the VP of HBO literally came out and said, as long as George Martin is writing, we will air the show. And he's only getting hotter. His material is not exactly the most accessible material. We were very fortunate to get Skin Trade when we did, and to get anything from George Martin when we did. And thankfully, through persistence and vision, we've still got it. And fostering relationships with Vince and George, etc., we've got it. And absolutely, I will say this, and it has been from the beginning. I mean, it's just a larger project. So White Space comes in. It's a very ambitious project. I'm excited about it. It's a genre film. It's effects driven. It's going to be very big for us, but. I was part of a machine there. The skin trade was my foresight. It was my vision. It was my negotiation before I even knew what going public meant. So this is kind of something that's endearing to me personally, and now it's become something that has an inevitable commercial success attached to it via George's names and his name and his fan base. And it's huge.
And your timing, right? I mean, the timing before Game of Thrones. Incredible foresight on that whole thing of finding skin trade and getting involved there. A couple of quick other key questions here. Are there any plans on hiring an accounting firm to generate the financial statements? And I think you kind of alluded to this, that as far as audited financials, that's not going to happen over the course of of 12, because quite frankly, you go right into AFM in October, and then you got a couple of the other projects that are working on, but a big focus on fiscal year 13, I would assume. Listen to me, calendar year 13. Is that? That's pretty much your goal, right?
Yeah, I think I pretty much answered that question. I would love to do it as soon as possible, but possible means let's get these benchmarks achieved, continual achievement of those, and let's get these fundamentals in place. And then it's going to be worthwhile to have audited financials and become fully reporting.
Well, I guess here I'll ask a question that can probably help out the investors here. Are there plans to move the stock to the NASDAQ?
There are plans to uplist the stock for certain. Between market makers and gamblers and all the stuff that is in here.
That's all you can say about that? I can't let you say any more about that. Sorry. I
hear you.
The strategy that's in place.
I am excited though.
However, that is a very near term intent of some of the things that we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your lawyer will come after me for that, and I'm not having that. All right, and so hence the next question: are there any plans to start posting financial statements on the SEC? Which
I think that's all part of the same ball.
It is. I would agree. Okay. Will White Space be finished on time for AFM? Okay, I think we answered that one. The goal is the trailer, right? That was the goal for everything. And then basically start positioning to sell White Space. Now, I will say this, and you know, I think in a movie, a lot of people there's editing, there's a whole bunch of other pieces. If you had to put a percentage on where you are with White Space as far as the last details being complete, where would you say you are?
I'd say knee-jerk response we're at about 70%.
All right. And in time, if you had to give a time frame of, if you said, okay, let's finish it right now, we got the buyer, how long would it take with, you know, aggressive action to finish it?
I'm going to be really conservative here, Chris, and I'm just going to say, because again, finishing is, and it's such a, I'll answer the question first. I believe conservatively 6 to 8 months. And I know that's going to come as a surprise to some people. But where I want to really make a point here is that the market is a different animal, and it's not about a fully finished deliverable film. And even though it's in a different realm, it's the same concept. You look at TED, and you know, some of these films are pre-sold on a poster to several territories on a poster. That
was the confusing part for me. When I was trying to understand this, I mean, the revenue pieces are coming in from beginning to end, and even beyond the films, you know, being in movie theaters or whatever the case may be, for years and years down the road. I struggled, you know, because you think when you sell something that you're selling a product, right? And it's all a whole thing, and you know, kind of like you go to the store and you say, I want that box, and you buy the box, and you know, cash change hands, and you got the box. What I never realized in this whole process that there's money flowing all over the place right from the very beginning to the very end. And, you know, realistically, and probably the best way to say this is over the course of time, right? And I know this is probably a shot in the dark that you can't really say that, you know, from AFM until, you know, 5 years down the road, I guess, I don't know. What is the value in millions of White Space?
Well, the value to Mike the Pike is going to be only a fraction of the value of White Space, and there's a little bit of algebra there if you think about it, because though there's only a relative financial value to, you know, each and every investor in the film and producer in the film as a whole is going to position our company in a very big way. So I think, you know, one of the scenarios that we would use is a film like, and this wasn't even a great film, and that's why I can use it conservatively. A film called Skyline, I believe 2 years ago. I believe it was 2010, a movie called Skyline. And it had Eric Balfour and someone, you know, a couple other players in it. They were faces, not names, and it was an effects-driven feature. It was picked up by Sony for $10 million. It went on to make $40 million theatrical. And, you know, you can always, these are relatively accurate. Sometimes all the info is not there, but there's a website called boxofficemojo.com. It's a very useful tool. You go to boxofficemojo.com. You can look up a movie like Skyline, and they'll break it down, what it made domestically, what it made foreign, what it cost. And they don't always include DVD on there. But I believe it was another maybe $20 million so far in DVD and VOD. So a lot of those once it's purchased, okay, they buy it for $10 million. That's awesome. Thereafter, it's really the deal that you strike with the distributor. And again, that's why you want to interview sales agents. You have something that they want. So you want to interview them. You want to get them looking at the project and really getting the absolute best deal you can for a long-term relationship. And you may have a part of that back end. You may have a part of VOD. You may have a part of DVD and theatrical and all the above. So there are some variables there, but I think if you look at Skyline on boxofficemojo.com, it is something that we used as a comparable from the get-go, and I think that's something that people can kind of look at as a case study, because the only thing anyone knows for fact in the entertainment industry is nothing, and nobody knows anything. You never know.
Gotcha. No,
look at Costner. You look at what Costner did with Dances with Wolves. He was on top of the world. Of course, Waterworld's going to be what Braveheart was 10, 15 years later, but it was a disaster. It was a $100 million disaster. No one foresaw that with Waterworld.
Right.
And obviously, that's not the case study that I want people looking at for White Space. But you look at Napoleon Dynamite that was made for $300,000 and goes on to make $100 million. That's unrealistic. You'd be irresponsible as a producer to say to an investor like, "Well, Napoleon Dynamite was made for $300,000 and made $100 million." So apples to apples, I think Skyline is a pretty good case study for people to look at Box Office Mojo and do their own math and speculate therein.
Here's a good one. IB Tight 26, right? He's a big investor in your company. Wants to know if he can have a cameo in Skin Trade.
So, well, just email me. We'll talk about it.
There you go. That's probably about 30 questions I had from the shareholders, and believe it or not, there was probably about 70, but so many of them are duplicated questions. I mean, the share structure questions I got over and over and over again, white space questions, and Skin Trade. And the one thing about this, and I'm sure interviews are one of those things where the intent was to update shareholders. That was the intent.
Yeah.
And one thing in the strategy was, and this is something that we discuss at great length, is I have no desire to spend money on press releases every week. I mean, it adds no value, and quite frankly, that money is useful in other places. So I think what we discussed and what the strategy that we came up with was we really focused on the blog. And I would say that from over the last 4 months, and this is just my opinion, you can jump in here, Mark, is we've probably put what I would consider 20 to 25 press-worthy releases onto the blog. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, the blog, for those that don't, if you're a serious shareholder in this company, if you're a flipper, then that's your mentality. Then good for you. I'm sure you do well and be on your way. But it's not something that the stock is going to cater to. That's for certain. We are a long-term growth company. I do feel we're undervalued. I think for speculative nature, we should be viewed as a startup entertainment company. And if you are a serious investor in that and you believe in what we're doing, you see the vision, you get it, you like it, it would be you would be committing a disservice to yourself by not visiting our blog at least once in a while and going through posts, because yes, I believe many of our items could be equivalent to a press release. Further, there's a lot of extrapolation and expounding that can be done to explain things in a blog that you just can't put in a press release. It just doesn't belong in a press release, Sure. You see how I can ramble on when I talk. God forbid you had to read a press release that talked about how I felt. So you go on a blog, and you're going to get information that you will not get in a press release, even if it's the same subject. And I think my More Movies, More Revenue blog post right after the Blood Rights release is a prime example of that. Most of that stuff I wouldn't put in a press release, but it's crucial information for a serious shareholder. More so, I also post entertainment industry info in there because this is a different animal. It's not one everyone understands. And I try to educate people not only on our company, but on the industry in which we are placed. And shameless plug, as long as you go into the blog, one thing that I ask of shareholders, I get asked a lot every day by shareholders, and I try to be true to everybody while growing the company. I ask that, everybody get on our Facebook, like Mike the Pike, share Mike the Pike, like the Skin Trade, share the Skin Trade, St. James Films. I think we've got about 5 Facebook pages in total, and, we've got close to 2,000 shareholders. We've got 4,000 followers on our blog, and I've got, less than 100 likes on St. James Films. So I think serious shareholders can also get proactive, everything's social media now, and to share these items and talk about our company I believe would cause a win-win for everyone. Not everybody's going to do that because they simply they're in it, and if they make money, and great. But we do have a solid base of long-term shareholders that have been with us even before I took over this company. Back when it was Pine Ridge and had nothing to do with movies, we have some people that are still in this stock from those days. And if you're a long-term holder, get behind us. Get on our social media pages, read our blog, and share it. Share it with your networks. And you'd be amazed at how word spreads and how people look at things.
I want to touch on the last thing here is, everyone, there's always that hope and looking in the future thing, and you do your forecasting models and all that other stuff. But when you talk about Skin Trade and Martin and a couple of things that you're doing, and your visit that you just had to LA, how big can this thing be? I mean, what's your gut saying? I mean, you came on, you talked about how this is probably the greatest day in your life when it comes to as far as on an excitement level. And I know you can't get into the specifics until things are signed, and I get all that. I really do. But is this an absolute life changer for you?
Yes. I mean, not even including the news that that has materialized in the last week that I kind of touched on. And again, nothing's materialized there. I'm saying I feel very good about things, but that aside, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, the public company aside, all else aside, as a production company, as a producer, this is hands down the biggest thing that's ever happened to us. And what I love about it is it didn't just happen to us. We had the foresight to pick it up. We held it through some hard times, and we got to know the players involved intimately, between George and Vince, and it's become a really synergistic relationship that will undoubtedly, it's going to lead to great things for us. And I couldn't be more proud. I couldn't be more humbled, and it's enormous. And on that note, I'll be quick here. I apologize. I'll be quick. On that note, you talk about AFM and Whitespace and some of the other projects. We've got projects I haven't even talked about yet that are either underway or completed. I mean, and I can't wait to start sharing more. But we are preparing for AFM. It's also a great tool. Whitespace and Skin Trade are not related in any way, but you go to AFM and you talk to a sales agent, and they see that you've got this one and that one. Well, there's a relationship there, They're not just buying a product off a one-trick pony, They see a lemonade stand. They see something that's going to be, oh, well, gosh, if you can make this and you've got this, let's make a deal, These can also be used as bargaining tools for some of our other properties. So it works on so many levels, I can't even tell you. And I'll say this, let's say, Hell in a Handbag, Skin Trade's the worst movie ever. Nobody sees it. The relationships that we are fostering here and developing are going to outweigh any success that we have with Skin Trade. And in and of itself, I think we're going to have a hell of a success with Skin Trade. The book is phenomenal, what we've done to it, and in terms of a feature adaptation, the outline is phenomenal, and I'm in love with the project. It's not just something cool that I feel we have to develop because it's on our plate. I love developing this source material.
No, that's excellent. And, look, it's been an incredible 4 to 5 months. I don't think there's anybody out there that legitimately couldn't stand there and say that, you said you were going to do this, you did this. You said you were going to do this, you did that. And the follow through has been absolutely impressive. And that was one of the other key reasons of why I wanted to get you on the radio show, because I wanted to hear the next steps of the follow through, what they need to hear from the horse's mouth. And it is what it is. The market will predict the price, and all you can do is follow your business plan, set the proper milestones, plan on your ROIs as they come. Not get overextended, and work on the projects that are going to benefit the company the most and the shareholders. And, you and I have talked about it a lot where, over the course of the last 5 months, this has been a team effort by a lot of different people, to include the shareholders. I mean, there's a lot of people that have brought a lot of great ideas to the table of how, your company can benefit and those type of things. And it's been an incredible journey, and we got a long way to go for sure. But it's awesome. Well, Mark, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and I think the points of what we wanted to get out, I think we did. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to address?
No, I don't think so. I want to leave it at that. There's actually plenty, but with respect to your time and to the fact that there would be too much to cover right now. I just can't. I cannot intimate enough how explosive this year has been for us, what St. James means to us as kind of an underlying business model supporting the parent company, and what we have in store in terms of Skin Trade, White Space, and some other projects on our slate. We haven't even, I won't even go into it, but we have, maybe the next time, we have Serve Nation to discuss. We've got other projects to discuss, and I will be blogging. I will be putting out material releases here and there, and I'm looking forward to sharing. And all I can ask is, again, like and share these Facebook pages. As trivial as it may sound, it's not. It's social media, and it works. And further, please, we are not here we're not going to go up. If we do, we do, but we're not here to force a PPS increase. I think I need shareholders to know that. I get asked some questions by people that I feel are pretty short-sighted, and a lot of them are by the very same people that would accuse us of being short-sighted if we were, being dilutive or doing, 504 financing or the other. It works both ways, guys. I got to tell you, we don't have room for that stuff on the company side, and we don't have room for that stuff on the shareholder side. You're only standing in the way of something greater here, and I'm looking to attract major shareholders that, perhaps at some point would eventually want to become preferred shareholders. And I'll leave it at that. But we're growing a company here, and please, take your gains and move on if you're not here for the long haul.
Oh yeah, no. You're definitely set the stage. There's no doubt about it, and there's a reason why STT committed a year to it. I mean, we knew that there's a process here, and quite frankly, we've never committed to anybody, which means that your character and the situation with your company was the right one on a lot of different levels. But hey, it's been exciting, and you and I will continue to talk, as well as the rest of the crew and those type of things, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's working. That's the thing. It's working, and the relationships and the things that are happening with Skin Trade and all that, keep marching forward. Now, I will warn you with one thing. is we definitely want you back on the show, and we'll plan that accordingly. A couple of months or so down the line, unless of course some outrageous information comes to come to light that is significant for the company. Whenever that happens, you'll be on that night. I can assure you of that. But we could probably talk later in life about getting Martin and Gerardus on, and I mean how awesome would that be? But good stuff, Mark, and I appreciate you taking time out, be with us, and till next time, man.
Thank you guys so much. I'm really grateful for the relationship, and thanks for anybody that took the time to listen. And I hope it was informative, and please continue to visit the blog, and if you haven't, do.
All right, have a good night, Mark.
Thank you. You guys too.
All right, that was Mr. Mark Newbauer, the CEO of MIKP Productions, Inc., stock ticker MIKP. Well, gentlemen, a lot of stuff covered in that 70 minutes. A lot of stuff.
It's very well done. Very well. I would like to say that while people are at Facebook liking Mike P, STT Radio sits there also. Give us one. Hey, I'm out. Get us out there, right?
No, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. The movie Jumper, I love that movie. For the record, he was. Yeah, I was just while he was talking, I was trying to figure out exactly who that was, and just so you know how to spell it, it's Gerardis, Vince Gerardis, and he was the executive producer of Jumper and a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, quite the stuff there, but. Again, that his negotiations, certain things that he's doing are still going on. So I'm sure he wanted to tell us more. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Very well done. Okay, don't forget, catch the guys on the morning show Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and Cop on the night show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursday. Looking forward tomorrow. We have a stock spotlight on the morning show. Should be a good one. We'll see how that works out. Mr. Haas will be handling that tomorrow morning. Guys, good job tonight. Sumo, excellent job. You did not interrupt me once.
I'm learning, I'm learning after all these years of doing radio. I'm starting to get the hang of it.
You're getting there finally, huh?
Nice.
All right, from all of us here at Stock Traders Talk Radio to all of you out there in Stock Traders Talk Radio listening land, we'll wish you the best in all your trades, and may your portfolios always be green. This is Stock Traders Talk Radio, and we are out.
Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio. All views and topics talked about on Stock Traders Talk Radio is solely for entertainment purposes. We are not professional financial advisors and always recommend you seek the advice of a professional financial advisor. Never invest in any stock featured on our show unless you can afford to lose your entire investment. The information contained on our show is based on sources which we believe to be reliable, but is not guaranteed by us as being accurate, and might not be a complete statement or summary of the available data. Stock Traders Talk Radio advises that the investments in companies profiled are commonly considered to be high risk, and use of the information provided is at the investor's sole risk. Thank you for listening to Stock Traders Talk Radio.